Now let's look at Angular reactive forms. Let's understand the basics about reactive forms before we actually write the code and understand it better. So, so reactive forms are the other way of writing the Angular forms. Um, and basically, as part of the reactive forms, the major logic is moved to the component class, and the form is created in component class and rendered onto the HTML. This is quite opposite to the template based forms, and it won't support the two-way data binding because it won't use the ng model directive, and form validations also move to the component class, and it's adding additional feature like adding custom validations to the Angular form to validate the inputs like SSN number or this type of additional validations. And it is easy to read and understand, especially when it comes to the complex forms. Okay, so when to use the reactive forms? So basically, it can be used for any scenario, both for the smaller forms as well as the complex forms, and it can be used not only just to create the login page with a username and password. Instead, it can be used to for the use cases like creating a LinkedIn profile where the user need to fill out all the details like personal details, residence details, and experience details, and any additional achievements, you know, to provide all these details into a single form. The reactive form is much better for this type of large forms. um, and now let's create the Angular 17 project and write the reactive form and understand with the code. So now let's look at the reactive forms, and reactive forms can be created with the form builder or without using a form builder, just with the form group and the form controls. So let's start with the form group and form controls first, then we will go for the form builder, and we'll look at the use case for the form builder. To start with, I'll add a div for a registration form. I'll completely push this content to center. So display flux, align items center, align content center, so that the content will be center aligned. So within this, so I'll start with the form, and within this form, I'll add input type text. I'll just add a bootstrap CSS just to make it look better, and it will be a form control. Okay, to use the form control, I need a form group. So I'll just add a form group. Within this form control, and I'll add a placeholder. It's for first name. Okay, I'll repeat this same 4 times. Okay, and I'll add it for last name. This will be an email, and let's grab the username, and I'll just add a button to submit. So button type is submit, and this is how the button closing. Maybe let's add btn I don't remember the CSS name, but let's check. Okay, this is the same CSS. Okay, somehow it is not center aligned. CSS. Okay, this should be justify content. Now it should be aligned. Okay, now it is center aligned. Now right now I just created plain HTML form. There is nothing in it. Okay, now let's add the Angular feature, Angular reactive form controls for this particular form. So to start with, this form should be named with form group. Okay, and the form group name is registration form. Okay, and basically this the way it form group works is, form group, it will have multiple form controls and it will all of them grouped together as a form group. Okay, and now it is failing because there is no registration form here. Okay, let's say form group. Okay, now in the HTML, to make this HTML into Angular reactive form, so we need to add form control name. Okay, so this name is going to be first name. So let's add form control name for all the fields. Last name, email, username. Okay, now on the HTML side we are done. Okay, what we will do is we'll try to print this form data once it is typed. For that, form dot value and we need a pipe and convert this to JSON to print it. Okay, so on the HTML side, what we added is the form group name and form control name. So since we are not using ng model here, so it will be only single way of binding. It's not going to work for two-way data binding with the form control name. Okay, now let's look at the changes on the TypeScript side. Okay, now we have this registration form group. Instead of this, what we will do is form group equal to new form group of, we'll add the fields here. Okay, so within this, like I said, every form group will have form controls, list of form controls. So it will become new form control. Okay, and the initial value will be empty. And let's copy paste this for 4 times for 4 fields, 2, 3, 4, and it will be last name, this is email, this is username. Okay, and now if you see, if you start typing something, now it will automatically bind it. Okay, email and username. Okay, and to set a default value, we can set it like this. Okay, on the page load, if you want to set test@email.com, username. Now with this, it will automatically input the values, default values on the page load. Okay, So if you want empty page, you should set it like this, empty form. Okay, this is the empty form. Now we added a basic form and tied with the form group, and this is the reactive form. Okay, this is the reactive form. For suppose there are few more things. For suppose if you want to set a default data coming from the API, okay, you want to set that. The way you can do it is you can add implements on init, and you need to implement the ng on init. Within this, what you can do is, if you want to, you can make the API call here. Once you get the data, you can get hold of the registration form, and once you get the registration form, you can say set value, and within this you need to pass the registration form dot set value, and within this you need to set this particular JSON. Otherwise, if whatever the data that you get from the backend API, you can set it. Otherwise, you can say like this, and okay. Now, since this is called in ng on it, these values are going to be loaded. Okay, and if there is an API call, you can make this API call here and set the value like this. Okay, there is one more thing that you need to notice. If I just want to set only first name and last name only, okay, this won't work with the set value. Okay, so to set only few fields, what you need to do is, you need to, instead of set value will accept the full form. Okay, instead you need to use patch value, so that it will set only two values. If you see, two values are set and you can type leftover fields. Okay, so this is the difference between set value and patch value. Okay, now let's look into the validations. So to add the basic validations, okay, let me just remove this piece right now. So this is what we have right now. Okay, to add the basic validation, you can say validators dot required. So it will force and it will set the field name to be mandatory. Okay, and along with this, what we need to do is we need to add few minor things for this particular form control. Okay, we can use the bootstrap CSS class, the one that we used in the template based forms. So class dot is invalid, it will set the red color bar for the text box. But to get hold of on what basis we are going to set this is, here registration form control dot get, we need to get hold of that particular field name. So for this one, it is the last name. Okay, dot, if this is invalid, for suppose if there is a first name field, then what we need to do is we need to check whether it is invalid. Okay, not only this control, we need to add one more, whether it is touched or not. Okay, let's push this to next, and here we can add touched. Okay, this is for the last name, and let's add it for first name as well. First name, let's add the same for email and username as well. Okay, username, email, should be email, now let's understand. So we are trying to apply this invalid CSS, which will apply the red color bar to the text box. Based on the condition, we are getting hold of the registration form and getting the field name, this field name, and checking whether it is invalid or not and whether it is touched. Okay, that's when we are setting the red color bar. Let's look at it. So I'm touching this and going away. So now you see there is a validation applied. Okay, this is a basic validation for the reactive form. Okay, along with this, if you want to apply more validations, okay, not only just this one, you can add like this, and you can add multiple validations here.